in a moment where we have to make a choice. What tradition do you identify with? What is the basis for how you see the world and how you understand, right, the way in which you ought to orient yourself to the world? We live in a country, and I'll say this really quickly, Brother Mark, that is captured by, in some ways, a tragic loop. One minute it defines or its commitment to freedom, the next minute it rejects it with a startling brutality. And the next minute it then engages in a sentimental act of reform, and then the next minute we see the same thing again, generations after generations. Our task in this moment is to grab hold of the tradition that has made us possible and to finally say no, to refuse everything that Donald Trump stands for, and to embrace everything that has made us possible. And the question becomes, are you too satisfied? The question becomes, have you taken the bribe? And the charge rests with what will you do in this moment that is required of you? Because guess what? We were born for such times as
That's right.
these.
That's right.
Well. Y'all heard the umps and the umps. You know it can't be none other than the eyeglasses queen herself from Los Angeles, Niele.
Good morning,
Welcome.
Stacey.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am struggling this morning. Struggling, but I'll plow through it.
I second that emotion. In the words of Smokey Robinson. Was it Smokey Robinson? I second that emotion.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
here we
there you
go.
go. You know your stuff. You know your
Oh,
stuff.
look, that's before my time, though.
Uh-oh. So wait a minute now.
I'm just saying, but I know it. It used to play in
Well, Selma was before when was Selma? Selma was 1963.
63.
Yeah, so it was before both of our times, but yet we we remember it, and it was 1965
It
actually.
was
Right.
65. No.
Yeah, I
was
mean 60
before the-
years.
But Selma was before the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 65. So it had to be before. The Voting Rights Act of 1964. No, it was 63. Google it. Who's in the chat?
Yeah, they're not celebrating 60 years from 1963.
Okay, let me Google it. Well, okay, so the Civil Rights Act of 1964, right? Wasn't Selma before that?
No.
It was after? Okay.
Well, actually, I think the Voting Rights Act was ratified in 65.
Voting Rights Act came after the Civil Rights Act. So it was the Civil Rights Act. Lyndon B. Johnson signed that first, and then after that came the Voting Rights Act. I know my stuff.
Gris said Gris said the math ain't her strong suit, but she's a pretty girl though.
Wait a minute.
Oh man, she gotta look it up, y'all.
Oh, it was 65. I'm sorry, it wasn't math, and I'm sorry, it was 65. My bad.
Listen, let me tell you something. Math, science, all that stuff. Shoot, y'all can have it all.
I could. I was wrong. My bad. It was March 7th, 1965.
The only reason I was so resolute that was 65 because they celebrating 60 years. That much in 63 and 80 and 05 just didn't match. That's the only reason why I knew.
The math. It's early. My apologies. But look, we have to get it right.
We gotta get it right.
You gotta get it right.
I know, because you got RNG over there ready to pounce on you. Look, I mean, he could be a little bit more softer on you. but he's about, come on, get your graduate. Grambling.
My bad,
Rambling.
my bad. I'm sorry. But that's just, I didn't realize it was after the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. I didn't realize that. I thought it was before.
Well, had you asked me simply, was it before or after, I wouldn't be able to tell you either. So whatever.
I
I
really
mean, the
thought it was
fact is,
before, but okay.
right. But the fact is, we're gonna talk about that this morning because there's a lot of folks down in Selma. A great turnout. I didn't know what to expect. Um, part I had, one side of me thinking not many will show up this time because of all the stuff that's going on, and then the other part was like, well, maybe an overwhelming number of people will show up because of what's going on. But it seems like they had a huge crowd. We'll get into that. We have a guest this morning with everything going on. Black Lives Matter, and several things. It's just little. I mean, you got some headlines you want to bring up as well. That so much going on as always. And one of the things though I want to lift up first up this morning, and you can look for more on this on blackpressusa.com, especially over the next few weeks too. We're going to be doing several things with this. There will be a news article tomorrow on this. There's a press release about it on blackpressusa.com. Experian, the credit company or the credit bureau announced it is relieving $5 million of consumer debt among 5,000 Louisiana families, which builds on the company's commitment to help consumers improve their financial health. Flo J. Johnson, the junior guard for the Louisiana State University women's basketball team, is teaming up with them on this, and had a chance to talk with one of the officials at Experian the other day about this, and so you'll be able to read more about it. They're gonna and for every win that LSU has in the tournament, they're gonna add $100,000 to the 5 million. And the great thing about this, Niel, one of the great things I should say, because it's a lot of great things about this, is that it's tax free. They will not have to pay taxes on this, and we're talking about struggling families, folks who had some mishaps with their credit and are trying to get back on their feet. This is pretty huge. And speaking of Flo J, we will be talking with Flo J this week, and we'll let you know exactly which day you'll be able to watch our discussion with Flo J. But we will be talking with Flo J this week, and should be a great conversation about debt. She's really into that stuff, Neil, about she's into folks wanting folks to realize what debt is all about.
Yeah, I hope this is a model, a test model, and that they expand it nationwide. And I hope that DEI folks can participate or be some of the candidates
You
in
went
it.
there. You went there.
Trump and them got people scared to even say DEI.
Yeah,
So I'm just
exactly.
hoping that, everybody gets to benefit from it.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. And in my conversation with Experian, seems like they are definitely looking to spread this to other places outside of Louisiana. So go to other states and cities around the country with this. So it's a beautiful thing. And you're right. You mentioned like DE and I. They don't mention that in this. This is not about DE and I, but anything that this administration deems DE and I, or i.e., helping marginalized people, they're going to try and jump in and cause chaos. So
Right.
and stop it. But Experian is pushing forward with this. Fans can help cheer the team on and see videos of Flo J by following Experian and Flo J on social media. Experian their Instagram and TikTok. Instagram is at Experian. TikTok is at Experian_US. And Flo J, her Instagram is at Flo J. Her TikTok is also at Flo J. FLAUJAEE is her JAE. I'm sorry, is her Instagram. JAEE is her TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So check it out. That's a pretty good thing, though. It's good to be able to lift something like this up, especially with all the chaos.
And she's so young for her to be concerned about credit at her age. That's a good thing. And I hate to see, I think I read somewhere where she's out this season for the
Yeah,
rest of the season. So she's not going to be able to play. And we're not going to be able to see her magic during March Madness this month. So that's a little sad, but exciting to talk to her. She has a
yeah,
great rap career, has a Best of Both Worlds album out. So that's going to be exciting to talk to her. Good
yeah.
news on a Monday.
But also this morning, we'll get into this a little bit later. We want you guys' thoughts for sure. The Angel Reese and her one of her colleagues was on her podcast, and they strongly suggested that the WNBA may go on strike.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot to that. I've seen a lot of stuff, as you imagine, a lot of rhetoric on social media, a lot of stuff that is crazy, but some of the stuff made sense. And what's your thoughts on a potential WNBA strike? Will that be the death knell for that league if they go on strike? Will people miss the WNBA?
I, I have mixed emotions about that because these ladies are just getting attention as far as,
Hmm.
thousands of hundreds and thousands of eyeballs on them. And, some of the ladies like to do everything but keep the focus on the basketball game. Not gonna name no names. Um,
Hmm.
so I just would, I think, we might be moving a little too fast too soon.
I agree 1000%. I understand they want to get paid more. And listen, the resources, they've lost money every year of their existence, the WNBA. The NBA has supplemented them every year of their existence. Now, they just recently signed a new TV deal that's going to bring the league a lot more money. And I think that you got to start there. I think since we're talking about it, I said we talk about it later. We'll talk about it now. I think the best thing for them to do is to tailor any collective bargaining agreement, make it short term, not this 10-year thing or 7-year thing. Make it 3 years and let that money kick in and go from there. You're not listen, Angel, love Angel. Everybody knows we love Angel. Angel, her rookie salary, like everybody else's, was like 75,000 or whatever, right? Not a lot of money when you're thinking about sports, but Angel is making huge money off the court, right? So for her, it would be easy to walk out. There's a lot of players that are not in Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark's or Flo J or a few others who don't have other things going for them. They have their salaries. Their highest salary is something 200 and some odd thousand, maybe $300,000, which for sports, it's embarrassing almost. But not when you consider they just haven't had the revenues.
Well,
And go ahead.
That that was gonna be my point that if they want to bargain, I don't think it should be the person that's making the most money outside of the game to be advocating and saying we're going to boycott.
Hmm.
I want to hear from those players that you're talking about that don't have the
Right.
endorsements.
Exactly.
That I want to know how they feel because I hear the people making the most money in the league outside of the league, yakety yak yak yak. But I want to hear from the WNBA as a whole. What do these ladies want? And I think that some of us need to be a little more fair and concerned about that versus being the spokesperson and always catching the headlines.
Yeah.
So like I said, I have mixed emotions about that. Love Angel
Yeah.
Reese. I think
Hmm.
she has definitely helped elevate the game. I think
Oh,
that
without question.
the conversation between her and Caitlin Clark gets all the attention, but really nobody was checking for the WNBA until Angel Reese did this. Okay. When she did that, I think we all paid attention. And that's when I became a fan of women's basketball, college basketball, because of her. I will
Yeah.
give her that.
Hmm.
But come on, sis, let's think about everybody
Think about
and not
everybody.
just
Yeah.
ourselves.
And people got to realize too that the NBA did not start making any money until, oh wow, around the late 80s, early 90s. They merged in the 70s, late 70s with the ABA in order for them to start thinking about a profit. It took them a
Mhm.
long, and the NBA was around for decades. Like it's almost the same trajectory. Um, it took them a long time to become really, really relevant. And you know what happened that really jump started their relevance was around 1980 when Magic and Larry came into the league. And that was what a lot of people were pointing at with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. When they came to the league, they said maybe this is the turnaround for the WNBA. You know, you had the black player, the white player, both outstanding players. Um, and you got to give it some time. Magic and Bird, just to put it in perspective, Magic signed what was considered a huge contract back there with the Lakers, $1 million a year for
Mhm.
25 years, right? And all folks saw was the 25 million number when he was making $1 million a year. And that
Mhm.
was considered huge. And this was what, 1982, 1983?
And
So
he advocated for that too. He
Mhm.
pushed him and his family pushed for that number.
Exactly. And you think about it, the WNBA, or anyone, I mean, in sports, when you think about $1 million, now you're thinking about the bare minimum. That's like 1 million. These guys, they go drop it on a club or something, in a
Right.
dinner. Um, but I think she has to be careful. Bottom line, I think Angel has to be careful with that, because unfortunately, there aren't enough women in her position
Right,
in the
right.
WNBA.
And I would like to hear like what does Caitlin Clark think about this? What do the other players think about this? I don't think that she should just take on the ownership of being the spokesperson for this. But to your point, when you're saying like the turn of the tide, I think they also brought, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. They brought the soft girl to the basketball
Right.
league. Because I think a lot of the turnoff was, well, they all act like men. You know what I'm saying? But then you see these women now, they come off fly. They have their
Yeah.
Gucci, their Louis Vuitton, their Prada,
Yep.
come across, the
Yep.
coming into the arena. And so they have elevated the game, but I think they need to give it a little, like you said, they need to let it breathe. Just let it breathe, sis.
Yeah. Last year alone, they lost $50 million. The league did, but the new TV contract is somewhere between 100 million and $200 million, and that
Mhm,
doesn't kick in. I don't. I think it kicks in next year. It starts to kick in next year, and they'll be getting. I'm not sure the terms, but I know that they're not getting it all up front, and
mhm.
it's going to be an annual thing. And that's part of why I say, you know, negotiate this CBA, but don't make it a long term thing. Even if you stick with, because this year they're playing under the old CBA anyway. Even if you play one more season under the old CBA before negotiating, wait until that money trickles in.
Mhm.
Then,
Right.
and the ratings, you know, let prove that the ratings from last year are sustainable,
Correct.
because the clauses in these TV contracts are different, and it could be that if they don't meet a certain ratings threshold, they can pull the contract.
Right.
So they got to be careful. You got to be careful. But we are rooting for them. Hopefully they'll find a situation where they will be able to get paid in the way that other sports do. So anyway,
Yeah.
as we go forward, Mike V says that, and see, this is part of the debate, but I don't know. Well, I'll let V speak for himself, but he says one of the reasons people watch the men is for athleticism. They like all the dunking. The WNBA doesn't really offer that. To an extent, I don't. I see what he's saying. I don't necessarily agree, because I think that the NBA, if you want to keep it real, the NBA, oh my gosh, the product is getting worse while the WNBA's product continues to improve. So I just, I watched a clip yesterday, Mike, um, that was insane. We joke how the NBA doesn't even call travel anymore, and they were showing clips of guys not just taking 3 steps or 4 steps. Guys were walking the ball up and then starting bouncing just before they get to half court, and there was no travel call. I mean, the NBA is a joke compared to what it was when Michael played and when Magic played. It's a joke today, in my opinion. Look, you can go back to the early 2000s, you got a better product than you did now with the
Yeah.
NBA. So, and I'm not a WNBA fan. I follow it. Like Niel said, I started following it after Angel Reese did this.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. And,
so
and now I'm 10 toes down. And
yeah,
I agree with you. I feel like the women are playing at a higher level than what they used to. Like I love to watch Juju Watkins play.
hmm
She plays like the female Kobe Bryant.
yep.
I love a Paige Buckner over at UConn. She's expected to go to the WNBA next year. I think that the women are playing at a higher level with more technique and finesse. And it's just a different era of women, which goes back to what you say, Stacey, about Magic and Larry Bird, and the NBA didn't get hot until then. I think that's where the WNBA is right now. And so I'm looking to see it grow. I'm not looking for it to be halted by somebody that's already making lots of money while these other girls are still wanting to play and make that money.
Mike V is hitting below the belt. He goes, how about your Knicks? we the Knicks could probably use a WNBA player right now.
Yeah. And like
So
I love LeBron James, but I think that the way that he's been able to control the Lakers organization is problematic. It's
yeah, it
problematic.
is problematic. It is. It is. We had that debate. Um, and we were talking about my wife and I was talking about that the other day about him and um Bronny. And we all know that Bronny James should not be on anybody's NBA roster. We all know that. We
Mm-mm.
know that. It doesn't, again, it doesn't he says the Knicks need Jesus. It does not excuse Stephen A. Smith at all. I will never excuse that bonehead. But but Bronny James does not need to be taking up a roster spot in the NBA.
No, and if you put your son in the NBA, then he is subject to commentary, good or
Mm.
bad. And you can't be mad at commentators for doing their job or calling out what's obvious to everybody. You don't want them to do
Mm.
it because of your son? Well, maybe you shouldn't have put him out and pushed him into a space that he wasn't ready for.
That's what Shanae said. But yeah, 100%. 100%. He's taken up a roster spot that could go to a real pro player. This guy, I mean, he does well when they send him down to the G League. He does okay.
Right.
Um, and maybe that's his ceiling. Maybe that's his ceiling. Because one of the things, I found, and I was saying this, and maybe Mike and the guys and the ladies can kind of shed some light on this. Um, and the NBA is kind of different than other leagues. Like a baseball player who is, say, he's an average player at 20, 21 years old, he has a chance to get better. It seems like in the NBA, if you're an average player at 21, 22, for the most part, you're always going to be an average player. There's not this huge jump in your abilities as you get older.
I think Kobe Bryant, if he was here, would say different. If you practice and if you have that Mamba mentality, you can do anything.
Yeah, but not everybody has that mentality. Practice
Right,
is one thing, as
right,
Allen Iverson said. Practice. We're talking about practice, but Kobe was a rare guy. I mean, that Michael Jordan had it, Magic Johnson had it. These are things. Larry Bird definitely had it, and
right.
Dr. J had it. You can't teach that.
Hmm.
So
You have to
you know
want it, huh? You have to want it.
yeah, it has to be something within you, and as Shanae was saying, maybe LeBron James's skill is, computer technology. Who knows? It's just not NBA basketball. So that's about it. But most importantly, we've spent a lot of time on them. She's laughing at me. But
I think
the
no,
big
this is refreshing
it
because
is
I was
refreshing.
talking to some people over the weekend, and they're like, "I'm sick of Donald Trump. I don't want to hear nothing else about what he's doing.
No.
I
Oh
don't
my
want to.
gosh.
No, no, no."
Oh my gosh. I get that. So I went I had to go to a funeral. Unfortunately, one of my cousins passed away, and I didn't hear it. If I heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times. Stop talking so much about Donald Trump. Every time I turn you on, one person said, "You and that girl from California." Talking about Donald Trump. Like, I
No,
like the
really,
show.
I think people are over it, especially black folks. Like,
Black
been
folks.
there, done that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't been through slavery. You know what I'm saying? We didn't been through everything. We sick of it. We know. We know. The white supremacists are back in control. We get it. We get it.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Well, and maybe it's a reason why the turnout for the anniversary of Bloody Sunday was pretty big, including Orange G. He was out there. I saw him taking
Oh no.
videos. Yeah, of course, Dr. Chavis, he was out. The Black press was well represented. Of course, Chavis himself is a civil rights. He's from the civil rights, and he worked at SNCC, I believe, under Dr. King, and that means it means a lot to most African Americans, but it means it's extra special for folks like um, Chavis and folks like the
Right.
NAACP people and Al Sharpton and all of those other guys that were there. I didn't get the fact that why Byron Donalds was there and even giving a speech.
I mean,
Don't
I
get that.
thought about you when I saw that, and I was like, now look at all the black people listening. If Stacy would have been there, he would have had a bullhorn
Oh gosh.
calling up, shut up. You sound crazy.
Oh my gosh. I would have certainly been questioning Byron. Well, what brings you here?
Right. No,
What?
but they let him speak because you know why? Because they walked across that bridge so that no matter what all black people could have the right to be Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party. But you know what I didn't see, Stacy, when they was walking across that bridge, I didn't see him nowhere in sight. I think they kept him
Right.
back. They kept him in
No,
back.
he came, he said a speech and probably left before the march.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. You don't have no benefit or no benefit, just doubt. Just doubt. No
Doubt.
benefit, just doubt.
Listen, listen. That's the way it has to be. Just doubt. Oh
I
man,
want to
Nancy
know, did
Wall.
you get any word of did they have any type of meetings or strategy going on? They did.
Oh no, I'm nodding my head to. I like the question because that was the time, right?
Right. That was the time. That was the time.
Yeah, and look, maybe they don't. Oh, okay. So Gris confirmed because she was working on that this weekend too. I think she was posting videos among other things she might have been doing over the
Mhm.
weekend for Bloody Sunday. But she said, yeah, there was some strategy sessions. So
That's good.
hopefully Byron Donalds wasn't in on them.
Yeah, because he's just gonna go back and tell.
Tell Uncle Trump,
Go
Daddy
tell
Trump.
go tell Massa they
Exactly. See.
they was over there as talkings about.
He probably say they put it on paper so his eyes couldn't read it.
Yeah. And they took my cell phone
They
so I
took
couldn't
his cell phone.
record it.
Oh my gosh.
You still gonna
RNG
let
said he
me
was
go ahead. He gonna say you
y-
still gonna let me run for governor, ain't you, sir?
there you go. That's horrible. It's true. Um that is too much. He said that's what RNG is saying. That's why Byron Donalds likely that's why he was there. He was not on the bridge. He said RNG. See, I knew it. He wasn't on that bridge.
Mm.
Now, there's only so much Trump will allow. Come on, boy, you ain't going on no bridge. Oh my God. There's Mark Thompson, of course, leading some discussions there. Bobby Henry, the chairman of the NNPA, was there as well. Um, and here's the thing. April Ryan wrote for blackpressusa.com that the anniversary, she noted how it comes as African Americans are fighting to keep blackness. She says she quoted Alabama Congresswoman Terry Sewell, who said that Elon Musk and his Doge brothers have ordered the GSA to sell off the site of the historic Freedom Riders Museum in Montgomery. This is their response. You see that? Selling off that iconic museum, the historic museum. Also, April mentions that they have a file of names, the administration does, and descriptions of more than 26,000 military images flagged for removal because of connections to women, minorities, culture, or DE&I. We know that one ship which name included the word gay, as in Marvin Gaye, just because it had the word gay, these idiots removed it. They want the name changed. They removed that name.
Mm.
Um, and we also see the Black Lives Matter Plaza being taken down. We talked about that last week. So April's point, and it's on blackpressusa.com, is as all this going on, they're continually trying to erase anything to do with Black folks.
Well, I think that this all goes back to FAFO. Project 2025 told us what they were going to do. And if you notice, Donald Trump is at the forefront, but the people that are inside the White House and inside his administration that are pushing this agenda are the authors and the people that are a part of the think tank of Project 2025. And to your point, it's like over 1,000 words, like systemically, transgender, all of these terms they are removing from government databases. Like we can't, those words are just going to be removed, equity, diversity, all these words are being taken out. And who's pushing this is the people that have constructed this Project 2025. And so it is moving like a freight train for those of us who didn't believe it was going to happen. And I'm petrified, you're terrified. And it's just what we were talking about earlier. Everybody is desensitized from it, but it still doesn't take away the threat of it. And it's still there.
It's still there. It's still happening. And one quick note before you introduce our guest, Inferno 932, a great reminder. We know we changed the clocks Sunday morning, but he notes that we should change the batteries in our smoke detectors. Very good call, Inferno 932. Very good call. So folks,
Yes.
take note of that. Please change your the batteries in your smoke detectors.
That's good.
We have a guest.
Oh, our guest is here. Okay. So, as we know, Black Lives Matter has been in the headlines last week, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the headlines this week because of the mural being moved and a lot of other conversations. So, joining us now to have this conversation is one of the founding co-founders of Black Lives Matter, Dr. Melina Abdullah. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to be with you.
So, I think it's important to talk about or set the tone. As you know, Black Lives Matter is in the headlines a lot last week, going to be in the headlines this week. You are an original co-founder of Black Lives Matter. You are over Black Lives Matter Grassroots. Can you tell us how many chapters across the country are affiliated with Black Lives Matter Grassroots?
Sure. Black Lives Matter Grassroots is the original formation of Black Lives Matter. We were formed July 13th, 2013. That's the date that George Zimmerman was acquitted in the murder of Trayvon Martin. So when you think of Black Lives Matter, when you think of the protests, when you think of the organizing in the streets, that's who we are as Black Lives Matter Grassroots. Now, all of that veering off the path and, sponsoring houses and what do they say, $6 million mansions. Neil, you live in Los Angeles like I do. You can't get a mansion for $6 million. But Also, that's not us, right? That was a band of thieves who came in and stole our resources and platforms. So people who want to plug in with the work that's still happening should follow BLM Grassroots, which again is the boots on the ground for Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter Grassroots has 39 chapters around the country. We still do really important work. Unfortunately, we don't have the platforms to amplify that work. So work like the work that's happening in Lubbock, Texas, to lift the name of Erskine Jenkins, the Texas Tech sophomore who was killed by police in Lubbock County, Lubbock, Texas. The work that's being done right here in Los Angeles to lift the name of Waukesha Wilson, who was killed back in 2016, but never really had justice done in her name. And so we're moving really important legislation in California. It's called Waukesha's Law. So when Waukesha was killed inside LA Metro Detention Center, nothing ever happened to honor her, and her family was never notified of Waukesha's death. So this legislation that's been introduced will require that when someone is killed by police or by anyone inside our jails and prisons, that their family is notified. It's a minimum, but their family should at least be notified, right, within 24 hours of their death. Waukesha's family had to look for her for 4 days before they discovered that their loved one was killed. So that's the work of Black Lives Matter Grassroots, happening everywhere from Buffalo, New York, to Los Angeles, California, to Houston, Texas. We're in 39 chapters, and we're onboarding 22 new chapters this year.
So we mentioned the removal of Black Lives Matter Plaza in DC. I guess we all had to see that coming this time around. Give us your thoughts on that. And we know it goes along with them trying to just erase anything to do with Black history.
Yeah, well, we knew that in 2020, when people put up signs everywhere, when Mayor Muriel Bowser wound up painting and creating this Black Lives Matter Plaza, we knew that eventually we wouldn't be the people du jour, and they would divert their gaze and stop looking and stop paying attention and stop elevating the struggle for justice in the name of Black people. And of course, when Trump came in, that took full force, and Trump talked about he's been demonizing Black Lives Matter because how dare Black people stand up for themselves. What's really saddening, however, is how these progressive folks, how these Democrats say that they're fighting back against Trump, but they completely capitulate to what Trump and his regime say to do. And so rather than standing firm and saying we're going to maintain Black Lives Matter Plaza, we're going to maintain that statement affirming the sanctity of Black life, what you see is Democrats who are supposed to be the opposing party really capitulating to a Donald Trump. So it's saddening. However, we also know that when you simply create a Black Lives Matter Plaza, but don't do the work to hold police accountable, don't do the work to really elevate the justice for Black people, it's symbolism anyway. So that should call us into the actual work that needs to be done to free Black people from state-sanctioned violence.
You brought up 2020, and we know that in 2020, George Floyd was murdered, and all the protests happened. DEI was pledged by many corporations. But also we had Rep. Jamal Bowman on, former Rep. Jamal Bowman on Friday, and we talked about Joe Shapiro and Elon Musk suggesting that Derek Chauvin should be acquitted. We wanted to get your take and thoughts on those comments.
So look, I want to get all the way real with you.
Let's do it.
I hate Ben Shapiro. Nia, we've known each other a very long time. I don't think you've ever heard me say who I hate, right? I very rarely use that word, but I hate Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, for me, it's personal. The first time I was ever doxxed, it was Ben Shapiro who did it. People should know who Shapiro is. Ben Shapiro is a right-wing so-called journalist, so-called leader who unleashes his terrorism on Black people who dare to open their mouths. And so Ben Shapiro has always had it in for Black Lives Matter. Ben Shapiro has it in for any Black person who dares to not be a Negro whose hands is tied. And you were talking about people who be yes mastering, right? If you are a dare to claim your freedom as a Black person, Ben Shapiro has it in for you. Ben Shapiro, though, doesn't have any real power. And so when he calls for the pardoning of, the new millennial slave catcher, Derek Chauvin, of course, is the Minneapolis cop who ground his knee into the neck of George Floyd for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. When he calls for that pardoning, it's an empty call unless it's actually followed up on by the Trump administration. So far, what we've seen is Trump say he has no plans to pardon Derek Chauvin. That doesn't mean it won't happen. So here's what it calls us to do. It calls us into action and the same energy. Because remember, the court system would have never, the policing system, the court system, what Councilman Yusef Salaam calls the criminal system of injustice, didn't hold Derek Chauvin accountable on its own. The only reason Derek Chauvin was ever arrested, the only reason we know his name is because the people in the streets made it happen, including the teenage girl who bravely and courageously videotaped that murder and had it go viral during a time of COVID. So, just because Ben Shapiro doesn't have the actual power to make that pardoning happen doesn't mean it won't, if their side is more powerful than our side. So what we have to do is not be, these soft people who go, oh no, this is happening to us. What we have to remember is the power that we had in 2020 and the power that we still have if we exercise it. And that means organize. That means saying not just, will Derek Chauvin remain under the jail, but it means that every killer cop has to be imprisoned. As long as there are jails and prisons, the police who kill our people belong in them. And so we have to demonstrate our power, that the power hasn't gone anywhere. And Derek Chauvin's too, but Donald Trump's power has to be matched. We have to match the power of that regime head on with organizing in the streets. There's two sources of power, money and people. He might have the money, but we got the people. And so we have to make sure that we continually organize for our people and make sure people like Derek Chauvin aren't released. But also, we have to make sure that the police who continue to kill our people and kill more people in 2024 than they have in any other year on record, that they are held accountable as well.
We talked about the Selma anniversary, but most importantly, at least in my estimation, most importantly, about any potential planning. What would you would like to have seen down in Selma if you were there yesterday? What would have been your expectations, especially given this moment?
Well, as we mark the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, right? The 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, we have to remember what the spirit of Bloody Sunday and intent of Bloody Sunday was. That Bloody Sunday became Bloody Sunday because we don't get to rise up against power, against white supremacist power without repercussions. And when they sing, we shall overcome as a commitment to continue in the face of fascism, in the face of violence, right? So Bloody Sunday, the commitment to march despite the batons, despite the dogs, despite the fascism, is a commitment to continue to struggle and struggle for something. So The intent of Bloody Sunday, the intent of that march on Edmund Pettus Bridge was to actually win some things, to win the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which wasn't signed into law until August 6th of 1965. But Bloody Sunday revealed to the world how absolutely vicious white supremacy is, and put that forward in motion, really gave some steam, additional steam to it. So where we are now is not in a space where we can afford to just be symbolic. We have to do actual work. So what are we struggling for? We're struggling for accountability. We are struggling for, let's be straight up, the removal of Donald Trump. And I know y'all don't really say his name, but I do, because I like to know who my enemy is, right? I like to say, look, they put targets on us. Our targets are on them. Our targets are on them, right? And we have to struggle for Donald Trump to fall. For Elon Musk, if you want to deport people, Donald Trump, and deport your homeboy. Elon Musk needs to get deported. If you want to, talk about immigrants as illegals, what's illegal is a white South African apartheid Nazi, right, who dares to run roughshod in an unelected way over everything that this country says it stands for. So we need to make sure that as we really lift up those folks, those 600 Black folks who were beaten on Bloody Sunday in 1965, we have to do real work in their honor.
So the term defund the police caught a lot of attention, got a lot of flack from different Democrats. But now we see DOGE has submitted a budget to literally defund the police, the Department of Justice, and some of its state and local law enforcement programs. What's your response to the whole, just thinking back to the whole uproar about the term defund the police, and then the Trump administration comes in and they're literally defunding the police?
Well, I think it's really important that we understand where defund the police came from. It became a really controversial term. But when we first started saying defund the police way back in 2015, it was not a controversial term. And so, the Democrats and even Barack Obama called it a snappy slogan. It wasn't a snappy slogan. It was never a snappy slogan. Well, it's kind of snappy, right? It was a policy demand, right? If you look at most major cities, the budgets of most major cities, we spend about 50% of our unrestricted funds on police. And what we were doing is showing these really clean graphs that most cities hand out on their own, and said, we hand them to people and they would go, that's too much money for police, as they'd see pie charts that were half red because all of that went to police. So policing gobbles up too much of our money to the detriment of what people really want. What people really want is funding for housing and mental health resources and after school programs. What people want is for their potholes to be filled, right? That's what people want city budgets to do. So that wasn't meant to be a controversial term, and it wasn't a controversial term until people said it was. And so when we say defund the police, we mean that as a budget and a policy demand. Now, when they're talking about cutting police funding, we got to remember what they're talking about cutting. At the top of Trump's list, at the top of Musk's list, is cutting SEC funding, right? Cutting the kind of policing that oversees what happens to corporations when they commit crimes, right? They want us to stop locking up, what was that guy? The Enron man, right? They want us to stop locking up corporate criminals. What they also want to do is take the gloves off, or what did they say? The handcuffs off of police. So they're talking about, we want to defund SEC. We want to defund investigations into white collar crime. And they also want to not just keep what they call qualified immunity. That's judicial practice that allows police to constantly challenge when they're being held accountable. They want to create something called complete immunity. So when you have Derek Chauvin's, when you have the killer of Dante Wright in Minneapolis just months after Derek Chauvin, that they get to do whatever they want to do. When you talk about the murders of people like Dijon Kizzee and others here in Los Angeles, they get to kill our people with absolute impunity. And there is no holding accountable. There is no prosecution. In fact, there's not even the right to civilly sue these people. So we got to remember that they want to empower police. They don't want to hold police that, again, put targets on the backs of Black people that are absolute descendants of slave catchers. They don't want to hold them accountable.
We're curious about your thoughts about the Democratic lawmakers last week singing "We Shall Overcome" in the well when Al Green was being censored.
You want my real reaction?
Absolutely. By the way, our viewers love your reactions. They are saying you are speaking the truth.
Well, I'm glad they think that. Thank you. I appreciated Al Green, right? I feel like that somebody, I don't have the skill set to make a video, but somebody needs to, get that cane and, make it tap to the beat of, the when you start love and happiness, dun, 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 somebody needs to do that, right? And have the cane pointing at Trump. If I had the skill set, I would absolutely. Neil, you got the skill set. I would
No.
absolutely. You don't. You just produce video. You can't. I feel like Al Green was a hero in that moment. I feel like all that happened after the walking out, people like Maxwell Frost and others walking out and singing "We Shall Overcome" was weak. And I feel like this idea of decorum, even Congressman Green, who I felt like was the most genuine in his response in the moment, capitulated later in the week to this idea that we should show decorum. We should abide by rules of decorum. We should be, subject to rules that are white supremacist and exclusive and meant to quiet the voice of protest. Anyway, he acted as if that was valid. And I think we need to be in times such as this, y'all. This is not a drill, right? That's actually the radio program I host. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. He's not playing around. Donald Trump is not playing around, right? When you looked at who was there, when you looked at the faces behind him, Mike Johnson and JD Vance sitting behind him, and then him literally giving a nod to Elon Musk as he talked about unelected leaders, right? But lifting up Elon Musk. This is not a drill. He is not playing with y'all. And so stop acting like we have to abide by these rules. One of my dear friends, Maya Rocky Moore Cummings, who's the widow of Elijah Cummings, and one of the most brilliant political scientists that I know, has a book that's coming out later this year that talks about how even these things that this country says we have to hold dear, like the U.S. Constitution is not the Bible, right? The rules of decorum are not God's rules. And so there is a time to stand up and be more pronounced and vigilant in what we do. So singing "We Shall Overcome," a song from 65 years ago, is literally something whose time has passed, right? At least pick a new song. At least sing some Nipsey Hussle and YG, right? Sing some F Donald Trump now, if they'd done that in a will, I'd have been impressed, right? But they did not do that. They sang "We Shall Overcome." And yes, we shall overcome, but the struggle needs to be harder than that.
I think too, Niel, and Melina, as Angela Connolly brings out, it's unmistakable now. Lauren Boebert says that she claimed that Al Green shook his quote pimp cane at her and she was scared. I mean, they're just out in the open now. There's no more dog whistles or covering up.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, what was Jasmine Crockett's line? You know, let's hurt her feelings a little bit. Let's hurt Marjorie Taylor Greene and her wannabe journalist boyfriend's feelings, and you know, remind her of who she is. As she doesn't just have, what was it, a butch bad beach bod or something,
There you
right?
go. There you go.
Right, but also, you know, some of that bleaching of the hair went through. There's actually evidence to show when you bleach your hair too much, it can cause brain damage, right? She is not the smartest person in the world. Oh, she's not the.
Well, Lauren Boebert is one who made the comment, but we're still agreeing with you on.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is who I'm talking about, right? But Lauren Boebert, she don't have nothing to say. She's not the smartest person in the world either. They must be a kinfolk, right? They kinfolk. And, you know, for her to call it a pimp cane, that was, like you said, not a dog whistle. It was a full trumpet, right? And pun intended, right?
Yep.
It was a full trumpet. And we need to push back more loudly than they are.
Well, before we let you go, it's Women's Month, and Black Lives Matter Grassroots honors women in the month of March. And you have an event coming up this Saturday called Black Women Are Divine. Tell us about it. Who are you honoring and the purpose of it?
Sure. So Black Women Are Divine was birthed in the spirit of Breonna Taylor, who was killed on March 13th, 2020. And you know that Breonna was a Black woman sleeping in her bed. Black women don't even have the right to rest without being killed by police. And when Breonna was killed, like many of us, Black women were overcome by this terrible murder at the hands of Louisville police. And we said, one of the things that happened for me is I was visited by the words of Mama Zora Neale Hurston, who said, Black women are the mules of the world. But just as quickly as those words came to me, God's words also came and said, no, the world tries to turn us into mules, but Black women are divine. And so since 2020, we've been honoring Breonna's spirit by embracing the divinity of living Black women. And so every March, we honor Black women. We every single day of March, we lift up some well-known Black women, but also some Black women, like our beloved Dominique DePrima was honored last year, right? This year, we're honoring people like Inez Barron out of New York. We're honoring Mary Alice Adams out of Benton Harbor, Michigan. Black women who put in the work to make Black people free every single day in the spirit of Breonna Taylor. And so we do that on our Instagram at BLM Grassroots. And then in cities all around the country, including Los Angeles, I believe about 15 cities are signed up to have Black Women Are Divine events, which are essentially love fests for Black women. So here, this Sunday in Los Angeles, we'll be having, you know, wonderful, healthy catered meals. We'll have artistic offerings, including Aloe Black comes every year and sings to the Black women. We'll have massage, we'll have Reiki, and everything is absolutely free. The only rules for the event are this is a time for Black women to receive. And so Black women get to come and eat and feast and have joy, and we can't pay for nothing and we can't do no work. So the brothers come and they set up all the chairs. White women come and they bring us flowers. And we are there to simply receive and experience love in the name of Breonna Taylor. And Breonna's family will be joining us as they have for the last few years. So they'll be with us on March 13th. And please check blmgrassroots.org for cities around the country. They're doing it in Tampa. They're doing it in Benton Harbor, Michigan. They're doing it in Detroit. They're doing it in Atlanta. And we'll be of course, having our event here in Los Angeles as we do every year.
Nice, nice. Well, we again appreciate you coming back by the program. Always bringing the heat. We love it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Dr. Melina Abdullah. Black Lives Matter. That is some awesome stuff as always.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we continue to uplift the work of Black Lives Matter, and we know which organization is staying true to the mission, which was a response to police killings that impacted people of color, particularly Black folks. And so the work that Black Lives Matter grassroots continues in that mission, in that vein, and we should definitely support them.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of other things are going on, has been going on, including the attacks at different, the protests, I should say, not attacks, but the at different Tesla locations, again, protesting Elon Musk. And there's been quite a few of them.
Yeah. I mean, and as they should, all weekend long. I find it
Yeah.
interesting though that the media is not really amplifying these protests like they did the first go around. But I also see a lot of us missing from those protests as well. They're not coming on my timeline. I think because we are still as Black people finding our way to navigate and resist, but not like we used to. I think it'll come
Yeah.
a time to where we pull up, but right now we're doing our resistance in a different space and in a different way.
Yeah, and we keep hearing from different ones that Black folks, like, we're gonna sit this one out. That we've given you guys all we've got. And so I think that other than yesterday, right, Bloody Sunday, I think well, I won't say other than yesterday. I think along with yesterday, Black folks are probably gonna pick and choose.
Right. We're picking and choosing. Hmm. Some days you feel rage, and then other days you just sip your coffee and just watch it.
Oh gosh, like, yeah, let me sip on this while y'all do that. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
look, uh, uh, you know, as a whole, it seems like African Americans just feel like we've done our job, especially Black women. We've talked about that. We've done our job.
Mhm. We've done our job. I
So,
think I'm gonna head on over to the park on Sunday with Black Lives Matter grassroots and be treated like I'm divine.
I,
And celebrate, and love on Breonna Taylor's family and celebrate the women. It's an awesome event. But it's also a commemorative event of, the lives that have been lost and always at the
Mhm.
forefront of purpose and mission. But it's a beautiful day. Yoga, massages, lunch. I mean, really, and the white folks, they rub your feet if you want, if you want them to.
Wow.
The
Wow.
the ally, okay? It's very
Mhm.
clear.
Well, hopefully they will do more than just rub people's feet. Then they need to
No,
they need to stand.
they do. No, they're very apologetic. They're
Yeah.
very like, what can I do? I feel bad
We
for
heard
my people.
we heard that after the George Floyd, that was a part of what was going on after George Floyd was murdered and the protests went global. I have friends, lawyers, and even a couple of police detectives. One was retired that
Mhm.
I know, and we shoot the breeze and stuff. These are white folks called me up uh, and apologized and asked me. One in particular was like, "Please, throughout the years you've known me," he said, "Was there anything I did to offend you? If I did, I want to make amends for it." And it was just amazing.
Right. It was something about that moment. And I've learned a lot, there is that the term ally for white folks is real.
Mhm.
The term ally, is real. And I remember when I was working a campaign, because Black Lives Matter does more than just protest, they actually work on policy too. So I worked on a policy campaign for them. Long story short, there's an organization called White People for Black Lives. And we were gathering signatures to get this ballot measure on a petition. And the White People for Black Lives got more signatures than the Black church. I mean, they was out there hustling them signatures. They was bringing us 1,000, 10,000 signatures. Like, they felt so compelled to support the movement. They felt so much guilt that wasn't even theirs, but they felt the guilt of white people, and they felt it was their responsibility to let us know that they not like them. So, you can't throw all white folks in one basket.
Mhm.
There are, you know what I'm saying? Just like,
Yeah.
Well,
and the thing too is, like, if you offended me, you would know immediately. So it's not gonna be years later. RNG says he's not gonna lie. The Tesla protest or something else. He says, I get it, but they are allowed to do what they want to. Not one cop has feared for his or her life. I wonder why. Yeah, look, 100%. I got his point. Absolutely.
Say it one more time in case they didn't catch it.
Yeah, he says, I'm not gonna lie, the Tesla protests are something else. I get it, but they are allowed to do what they want to do. Not one cop has feared for his or her life. I wonder why.
This is America.
And he doesn't wonder. He's that's a little bit of hyperbole there, because he knows why. And like you said, this is America. That says a lot. It says a whole lot. Some Black history moments. You ready for that?
Well, let me throw in our quickies, because there are more headlines.
Oh, that's right.
There are more headlines for Black America than just Donald Trump. First off, the story that caught national attention: Omega Psi Phi member Caleb McRae has posted a $100,000 bond after being arrested for the alleged criminal hazing death of Caleb Wilson, the Southern University student whose story, as I said, garnered national attention. All last week, they celebrated him. The Human Jukebox Band of Southern University celebrated his life. And once again, the conversation of hazing is back at the forefront. All of the sororities and fraternities, the Divine Nine, activities have been suspended on Southern University's campus due to the death of Caleb Wilson. And so we'll continue to keep his family in our prayers and monitor this story, as I'm sure the Divine Nine is going to have a huge spotlight on them because of this. You mentioned it earlier. Historic bus station and Freedom Riders Museum is ordered by DOGE to sell off. Last week we talked about them selling off Barack Obama's library, which he was already moving to Maryland. And so once again, the Trump administration is chopping away at Black history, Black legacy. Another story: Gladys Knight cancels a Florida show after becoming sick. So we definitely want to keep the Queen in our prayers. And finally, Meghan Markle's Netflix series is greenlit for a second season. With Love, Meghan came out, and all of the Black women. So Stacey, I was, monitoring TikTok. So all of the Black women were like, "Oh, she's living her soft girl life. She's a princess. I'm not mad at her. She could take those pretzels out of one bag and put it in another and put a name tag on it." I'm loving it. The white women, woo! They don't like to see a Black woman living her soft life. They don't want to see a Black princess. I have never seen white women drag a Black woman so hard. They are on TikTok just saying that she's unrelatable. Who does she think she is? She's just a horrible person. I mean, the white women are dragging her, but Netflix said, we don't care. She's getting a second season. And so if you haven't watched it, we'd like to know what you think about it. But Stacey, when I tell you them white women do not like Meghan Markle, they do not like her.
because she married into royalty, and it's tantamount in their eyes to a black woman. If a black woman would have married JFK Jr., could you imagine?
I mean,
Good
they are
night.
drag and they're blaming her for him leaving the royal family when I
Man
believe that
stood
he
up for
wanted
his
to do that.
wife.
Yeah, and I believe that he wrote a book called The Spare and talked about how, and the spare is a term that has gone from different kings and queens from generation to generation. The spare is somebody who ain't never going nowhere and they get treated. So I feel like she just gave him the courage to do something that he wanted to do. She didn't
Yeah.
drag him to the United States. He left willingly.
And the other part of it was the racism, the blatant racism going on in the palace there, and in and around the palace toward her.
Mhm.
Um, and come on, if you're not going to stand up for your wife, that's what I didn't think. Um, their marriage would last long because there's a lot of power, there's a lot of status, and everything that comes with being in that royal family. And they hated the fact that he brought her into the family, and him leaving and leaving all that behind. I still believe, and hopefully for their sake, I'm wrong. That ultimately this man is going to want to reclaim that power because at the end of the day, that is a whole lot of privilege for a white man to give up.
Oh, you believe that? I mean,
Yeah.
most people didn't think that he'd do it, okay? But
Oh
he
yeah.
literally, and he really hasn't looked back. I mean, he might have looked back in a closet, but
Yeah.
we haven't seen it. And these white women don't like it. These white American women, I'm not talking about what's happening over at the pond. These white American women, they are furious at this black woman for living such a charmed, soft life.
Yeah. Gosh, it's death after death after death after death. Over the weekend, Dwayne Wiggins of Tony died at the age of 64. Um, so sad. So sad. And I know that there are some Tony fans on that watch us every morning. Definitely our hearts go out to the group, their families, and certainly his family. Dwayne Wiggins, just 64 years old.
Yeah, he died from cancer. And there were rumors last week, but the family put something out and said, just respect the privacy. And then, like maybe a day or two later, he passed. But a lot of people, one in particular, Destiny's Child, I didn't realize that he gave them their first record deal. And
Mm.
so he worked with Beyonce, Kelly, and Tina knows, of course, she talked about how her and Beyonce had talked when he passed. They had a conversation and just reminiscent of their past. Solange, too. He worked with Solange on her project. And even Kelly came out. And so he was instrumental. Even Raphael Sadiq talked about he was like the glue of the group. He brought the group together. Raphael Sadiq said he learned to play instruments from his brother. And so he's just an example of a lot of times we know the names, but there are so many people, like even in the civil rights movement, we know the names, but there's so many other people that really help cultivate the movement, the culture, and the music. And he's one of those individuals that we learned so much more about him through his death than we knew while he was living. So God bless that brother and his family.
It just seems like it's so many, and we keep hearing about these illnesses that we really didn't know about. I mean, and you find out that they had these illnesses. Look, I'm gonna be very, very cynical here, but I wonder how much is this like? Okay, they fighting, they're battling, and they see all this stuff with the dictator there, and they're like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and rest.
Oh,
Just
wow.
just give up where they may have not ordinarily, and it's not it's certainly not meant as a shade to them. Um, Sometimes it's like, is it worth going on with this nonsense? Look, too many of them are going.
I know. It
Too
seems
many.
like all of a sudden it's just like back to
Yeah.
back to back to
And
back.
these are not, Gene Hackman, 95 years old type. He's 64 years old is, is he's not an old man.
Mm-mm.
And our girl Angie Stone was 63.
Right.
And there was nine, like her buddy said, there was nine people on that bus.
Right.
She had some underlying health conditions, absolutely. And that goes to my point. It's like, are they just saying, you know what? Why am I fighting?
Right. And sometimes to me, that's the hardest one, the unexpected. Like if you
Mhm.
know your loved one is dying, then you're saying goodbye. But it's that tragic call that you get. And it's like, wait a minute, what? What happened? I just got off the phone with them. They was
Yep.
on their way to the and
Yeah.
so yeah. But prayers to all of them. I know today, you mentioned it last week, is Roberta Flack's funeral in New
Yep.
York.
Yep.
And then the mother of this one of the mothers of the civil rights movement, Hazel Dukes, her funeral is Wednesday. I found that
Mhm.
out. And so yeah.
Yeah. And you remember, Biggie's mom just recently died.
Mm,
So it's we could go on and on. I just, that's just me. I just wonder. I'm just wondering because, whew, this is a lot to digest.
it's a lot
Um,
to digest, but I'm not ready to go yet. Okay.
right.
He not bugging me that much.
Well, the thing is, like I said, these are folks we find out that they've been battling, Dwayne Wiggins battling cancer and stuff, and they fighting, and so it's not like you're saying, I'm healthy and I just want to go.
Right.
It's just he's taking the fight out of you,
Mm,
or at least that. What am I sticking around for? Especially
mm,
especially if you have like your family set up. They're not really dependent on you like that anymore. It's
mm.
a lot. I'm almost. I'm starting to graduate to the Greer School of Conspiracy Theories. So,
Uh-oh.
um. So anyway, some Black History moments, if you will.
Okay. On this date in 1913, it's Women's History Month. So this is a perfect woman to start off with. Some call her Moses. Harriet Tubman died at the age of 91. Harriet Tubman escaped slavery and became a key figure in the Underground Railroad, freeing approximately 70 enslaved individuals. In addition to her work in abolition, Tubman served as a spy for the Union Army and advocated for women's rights.
Look at that. When we hear about
I
women's
still
rights,
want my $20 bill, okay?
ah, yeah. See, that's another thing, right? Um, this guy, the number 45/47. She was ticketed to be on the bill a few years ago, and he stopped it.
Right. And now he wants to be on a $250 bill and she can't get it. We can't get a 20.
And it's amazing he wants to be the face of of currency that doesn't exist, of a
Right.
bill that doesn't exist.
It makes
Oh
sense though,
gosh,
coming from him.
yeah. Look, and he said it again over the weekend. He was speaking. Where was he speaking? Wherever he was speaking, he goes, the election was rigged, and he won. Thank goodness.
Oh, he was speaking with the soccer president. The FIFA president was in his office when he said that.
It's the second time he's made that statement, and like I said, I was so surprised that Representative Lauren Underwood just outright dismissing that, and it's like, come on, this is part of y'all problem. This is why y'all sitting where y'all sitting. This is exactly the problem. Yeah, you can't. You just this decorum idea, as Dr. Molina said. Come on, decorum for what? For whom? Give me a break. On this date in 1969, James Earl Ray pleaded guilty in a Memphis courtroom to killing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Wow.
Mm,
It's whew. It's like these guys always, you know, you think about how hateful these people are, and hateful enough that they take lives, and it doesn't faze him. He looks like, yeah, I did what I was supposed to do in that mugshot. It's awful. It's like, yeah, it's look there. If if the lack of remorse was a photo, that would be it. Terrible. Um, Neil, what's the black-owned newspaper of the day?
The Black-owned newspaper of the day is the Call and Post, which was founded in 1916 by Cleveland inventor Garrett Morgan. The Call and Post merged with the Cleveland Post in 1929, becoming a powerful voice for Ohio's African American communities. It's now owned by King Media Enterprises, with Don King as the publisher. The Call and Post is published weekly on Wednesdays for 50 cents. Whoa, they have not changed with the times. I love that. Known
Right.
as the People's Paper, it delivers local, national, and international news to over 80,000 readers in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, and urban centers across Ohio. 50 cents. God bless them.
Yep. Yep. I said the same thing. I didn't realize that they were charging 50 cents, and I said the same thing. It's like, good for you.
Yes. I mean, are there any other papers? We have to see, because I know that all the other papers, they go up with inflation. But to stay at 50 cents, God bless King Media Enterprises for that.
Mm. Listen, Orange says, Neil, that he didn't see any strength in any Democratic politician yesterday, speaking into bullhorns and really saying nothing. Now, again, he was there on the ground.
Mhm.
I mean, I know we get ready to close, but I saw that post and I said, let me get your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think Melina said it best. We need to FTD. Wait, yeah, FDT. Yeah, FDT. We need to YG and Nipsey Hussle. We need to really, if that's what's happening. I mean, I think that there are times when you do present yourself with decorum. There are settings for
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But for the most part, being docile, Langston Hughes said it best: docile, meek, and mild. God forbid the day we change our minds.
Wow.
The docile, meek, and mild is not getting us anywhere. It's
Mm.
not. At
Well,
least get the headline. At least Jasmine Crockett understood that I need to if I want to be heard, if I want to get to mainstream media, if I want to get my messages out, I'm going to have to put my foot down. And we saw Hakeem Jeffries do it last week. Finally, he put on his baseball cap and his hoodie and did the B-boy stand. We need more. Representative Al Green, although he reverted back to decorum, that act had him on every national news outlet across the country last week. I
yeah.
saw him on TMZ. He was on TMZ. That he would have never got on TMZ if that would have happened. They just wouldn't have called him and said, "Can you come talk to us about resisting Donald Trump?"
Well,
You
just
know,
just Justine Sports Medicine says good trouble, and Shonda H says symbolism only goes so far. Strategic, intentional actions bring about true progress and change. So they need to keep those things in mind. Please like and share the broadcast. Um, we got so much going on, and we'll continue to bring it to you every day. Let it be known news. We
right.
amplify Black voices and Black headlines.
That's right. And, when we leave, the conversation in the news continues. So for the latest in Black headlines, just head on over to blackpressusa.com. Check it throughout the day, because that is where you're going to find the stories that are impacting the Black experience.
And there you have it. Thanks for watching. Let it be known. We'll see you tomorrow.